bank holiday weekend, and Chelsea brought the party vibes with them. They struggled at the bridge, but they made sure that at Molineux, they made the dance. And Wolves were sent on a merry-go-round, and they thrashed them for 6. For the first time, maybe not the last time this season, but we'll find out. Arsenal did what they needed to do, a tough, hard-fought win against Aston Villa, and of course the champions doing what they do best, putting the ball in the net for fun. And some other team also scored 4 goals this weekend. You know who you are. But we're going to talk about that and a lot of other news in this episode of One Kick from Glory. I'm joined, as always, by Craig and Matthew. But we're going to start off, before we get into all the celebration and the happiness of our team's victories, by reflecting on the life of former England manager Sven-Göran Eriksson, who passed away earlier on today. He leaves behind a great legacy. And in fact, he did also do a recent documentary piece with Amazon about his life, and I recommend people to watch that. It's really quite timely, and also some of the things he was saying about life in general was quite good to hear. But I'll start with you, Craig. What's one of your kind of enduring memories of Sven-Göran Eriksson as manager?
When England beat Germany 5-1 in Munich, that team, Germany always seemed to beat England in semi-finals of Euros, World Cup semi-finals, World Cup quarter-finals. And for him to finally beat Germany, England beat Germany since, I think it was the first time since Euro 2000, I think they beat Germany at the time.
Yeah.
And he got the win. And that win was cultivated at England to get to the World Cup. And that was a great win. Michael Owen scored a hat-trick in that game, if I remember correctly. Gerrard scored a scream outside the box. Heskey scored. That was a peak Heskey when he was in top form that season. He scored a goal. It was a great all-round performance. And he did well. Even in the World Cup, 2002 World Cup, England did well, got to the quarterfinals and played Brazil, one of the best teams at that time, even though they struggled in qualifying for the World Cup, but they were on fire. Ronaldo was on fire, Ronaldinho was on fire, Rivaldo was on fire. They had a great team. England went 1-0 up. Michael Owen scored that goal. Then England conceded the goal to make it 1-1. Then Ronaldinho scored that. Every time I think about
what wonder fluke,
that wonder fluke of a goal, Chip Seaman from 35 or 40 yards out, England tournament done. But you have to give credit to Sven-Göran Eriksson. He did a great job. Even though England didn't get to finals or semi-finals, but at the end of the day, that golden generational team done what they could have done. Played against some great teams. They had a great Brazilian team. They had a great Portuguese team. Twice Portugal knocked them out tournament, Euros and World Cup. I always keep on saying to myself, if Wayne Rooney was fit in that quarter final, I would love to have seen what would have happened. I think Rooney would have destroyed them. It was destroying them if we got the injury, and the injury happened to him, and then the tournament, yeah.
And for you, Matthew, what's one of your kind of highlights of Sven?
You know what? I think he took on the England job, where at the time it was at a bit of a low, especially after the '98 World Cup. With the kick, the Batistuta from David Beckham, and then the year 2000 Euros. I don't think we even got out of the group, either way we didn't do very well. And I think the resurgence came where both country and player and Beckham needed a really good pick me up. And I think he was there for the one we played Greece, and he scored that free kick where it was full circle come round, England are back, and he took it through to, has to be said, 3 good tournaments where arguably we had that team getting towards the golden generation that we know. So you had the likes of Lampard, Gerrard, Michael Owen, David Beckham, all on the rising up towards the golden generation. And it's each time he got to a quarter final. So it's a case of what could have been. And there's no, like the Craig said, there's no disgrace in getting beaten by the eventual world champions and the Portugal team that were going on a run with a rising Ronaldo. There is no disgrace in getting beaten by teams like that. And of course, if Rooney stayed fit, just how much more we could have got. And I think at the time he was the first foreign manager that we ever had, and I think there was a lot of skepticism, a lot of worries. But considering what we had after, you can hardly say before until we got Southgate, he was our best manager. If you look at it, Capello flopped, Hodgson flopped. Let's not talk about the Wally with the Brody. Let's not even talk about that. He was the best manager that we had in terms of quality, again towards tournaments, standing up against really big teams, grinding out results, even when we're not playing very well, which is still a problem that we have today. And imagine marshalling and bringing in players that at the time when it's like those certain teams just didn't communicate and didn't talk, and marshalling a lot of potential ego coming into the team. And let's not forget the things off the pitch with himself as well. He held it down pretty well, still managing to consistently perform in international tournaments.
Yeah, he definitely didn't have an easy job, and he definitely did, in hindsight, do a lot of positive things. And again, you think about the tournaments, the teams we lost to: Brazil, who ended up winning the World Cup; Portugal, who could have won that World Cup, Euros that we got knocked out of. Obviously, they got beaten by Greece, and then you kind of have to weigh his time differently. Yes, he got us to quarterfinals consistently, and we kind of got stuck there. But it wasn't like we got beaten by weak teams. You know, he beat some of the best. And again, that Germany 5-1, no one can ever forget it. Germans don't. No, we don't. So yeah, Sven, we're grateful for what you did, and you've definitely showed English football what's possible. And Southgate took things another step further forward. And then we look forward to see what comes next for the national team. And let's look over to our clubs. Let's start off with Chelsea, because I think you guys needed a big win. You needed some positive news after what is categorically an absolute crap show going on at Stamford Bridge. I don't know how anyone can justify the nonsense you guys are doing, because it doesn't make sense. But here we are. You forced Gallagher out. You've got Sterling and the other 20 men on the sidelines doing just doing their own thing. But on the pitch, which is what matters most for Clear Lake, you guys got a very big win, very good 3 points. I guess for you, Matthew, just talk me through your thoughts on the game.
I was apprehensive because Wolves have had our number of late. They had our number twice last season, getting, I think it was a 2 or 3-1 at home at Molineux, and then they whooped us 4-2 at the Bridge. So I was stepping in this one with a touch of apprehension. But when they first started, because I was streaming the game a little bit, and I just saw the goals coming through. I was like, oh yes, we're getting them goals. Jackson gets a nice header. I was like, yeah, cool. And then I see, and this is why I'm not necessarily happy with the combination we have at the back. I'm still not convinced with Sanchez in goal. He's too floppy and just not stern enough when it comes to being in goal. That's why I like what's his face now? The other goalkeeper we had done to the point. Petrovic. That's why I like this. We got 7 keepers. I've got a keeper. That's one more thing with him, because I think he was getting to a point where he was becoming a little bit more stable. Not perfect, but stable. But and then again, defense didn't help him. Too many holes. The same problem we had against Man City, just getting far too easy, and to the point that Sanchez is diving the wrong way. So the goals were coming through them very easy, but we kept on going. Palmer gets his goal as well. I mean, at half time it's like, all right, cool, 2-2. This could go in one of either way. And I think something that Ezra Maresca said, and definitely something that he did, change the landscape of the game. So he shifts Cole Palmer, so he turns into provider, and him and Noni in the past, and even with Carney, who obviously wasn't playing, he links up well with other players. So that's how he was able to provide it. And Noni was having so much fun down that right-hand side. And he just cuts in and gets the goals. The goals were almost, all 3 of his goals were carbon copy. Exactly the same. And they couldn't cope. Granted, one was a deflection, but you don't know until you shoot. You know what I mean? And then obviously João Felix, he gets in the action. And it was just a constant press that we had, a much more positive outlook as opposed to the Man City game where it was so negative. Plus they forced us back anyway. They weren't letting us out for nothing. And every time we shot, just that positive outlook of keeping on going. Neto, he got to experience some of the action, and it was just an all-round better performance on the day. And just what happens with a little bit more direct. Questions are going to be asked about with a striker, but we've got players we know that can score, and obviously Jackson gets off the mark. Palmer is now off the mark. One of many players that can score. So it was half-time. You got it right. Got his substitutions right. So we've got to take that energy now. We've got another European game on Thursday. Got an interesting game against Palace on next Sunday. So if we can take that energy through, should be another 3 points.
Yeah, it's shaping up that way, and it'll be interesting to see what you guys do in that game at home against Crystal Palace, and we'll have the predictions come the end of the episode. But I guess just further to that, Craig, obviously there was some criticism online, or feedback you could call it, from John Obi Mikel about Nicholas Jackson and just a general state of Chelsea from now. You know, he was talking about the glory days when he was there, when they could call on players off the bench, players like Drogba, you get players like Lampard chipping in with goals, and he was just wondering like where's the goals going to come from and why is Nicholas Jackson not doing what he should do. And of course, Nicholas Jackson, as any young person who has social media does, commented back saying, if this is really his words, you know, Mikel John Obi, shut your mouth, don't talk whatever. We are killing ourselves for Africa, love, football, and a globe emoji. I mean, Craig, what do you think about that response from Jackson? It's one game. He did score Chelsea's fastest ever goal in the Premier League since 2017. But what do you think about that as a response from him towards a player who has literally won it all for Chelsea?
I feel like he should just keep his mouth shut and focus on football. Focus on football. Let your goals do the talking. Let his goal. If he scores over 20 goals a season, that will shut him up. Don't. That's the problem. That's the problem with the world today. Like someone will say something about you. It's the way how you. If you don't react to it, don't react to it. There's no need to react. Let your goals do the talking. You know, what do you think, Matthew? Do you think like sometimes like when people say something, you just have to like just ignore them. Like end of the day, that's my fuel. He said to me, "I need to improve. I'm gonna improve. Let me improve and score more and more goals and show that I'm proving wrong." In life, you have to prove people wrong. Not everyone's gonna be your friend. Not everyone's gonna be happy for you. You have to prove to people what you can do. Show them what you're about. And if Jackson wants to be a top striker in the Premier League, he has to show people what he's about. He can score goals. He's a good little finisher.
I agree.
Stop being offside.
Stop being offside. Get goals.
That's a hard one for him, though.
He's good. His movement. He's got a very good movement. I noticed it with him. He doesn't stand still in the box. He's got excellent movement. All he needs to do, just refine his finishing a little bit.
Put it in the net.
Put it in the net on a consistent basis, and then John Obi Mikel will shut up, and then you won't have anything to say. Because pundits get paid to criticise players. Let's be real. If players are playing well all the time, the pundits are out of a job because they have nobody to criticise. So if players are playing well, then you know what I mean. So now he has to go back. He scored a goal. Yes, good goal, good header yesterday. Go back and watch what he did yesterday and do it on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and then eventually improve on that kind of thing. That goes for all players though. That goes
100%.
for all the players around the world, all the greats, all the best. They've had those moments where someone has said, "Yeah, but that's not. You're gonna need to be doing more." All the greats have had it. So him getting that kind of he's had criticism like that since last year. So it's nothing really necessarily that's new. You can talk about. I mean, certain people react to criticism in a different way. Him responding like that is, I don't know, a lack of maturity. But we have had lack of maturity in that team for a while. So.
But that for me, someone did that to me. That would put fire on my belly. You know what? I'm gonna prove him wrong. I'm gonna shut him up. I'm not gonna attack him online. At the end of the day, he's a Chelsea legend. He won everything at Chelsea: Europa League, Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup. He won everything. So he knows what he's talking about, playing with great elite players.
All it took to get to that level.
I know.
And if you listen to some of his interviews, Mikel, about being in that dressing room, and it got heated. It got heated. Some of the players were talking fists, holding people by the scruff of their shirt when they ain't doing the job. Not even just from managers, like players. So if anyone knows what it means to win, it's someone like him.
Yeah, he's definitely a winner. He knows what it takes. And I think just maybe for Jackson, he will use this as a good field to keep going. Because it's one goal. To me, it's like, you scored, well done, but you should have scored last week. This is not the response to then say to Mikel, like, whatever, shut your mouth, like, I know what I'm doing. If he'd scored a hat-trick, I would have said, well, the third one's dedicated to John Obi Mikel. Shout out to you. I've done that.
Yeah.
And John Mikel will be like, okay, I like this. Now, you see next match? Okay, if Jackson doesn't score. I'm over Mikel, I'm on him. I think he needs to really keep pushing on with that. For you, Craig, do you feel like Chelsea are starting to show a style of play that will help them out? As Matthew said, the ambition is probably to get into Europe this season. Do you think that will help them in that push? Or do you think there's still question marks in that performance?
Well, Chelsea went 2-0 up, didn't you?
No, it was 2-1, 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2,
And then you just went from there.
Second half, we did the madness.
I thought that the only way, I think there's a couple of areas in the squad that's a bit defence, leaking too many goals in defence. The goalkeeping situation is
Yeah, it's not stable.
it's not stable. I think Colwell and Fofana, they need to really tighten up at the back. Them two.
They haven't played much because Fofana was based out for the whole of last season.
Yeah, so Fofana's getting his fitness back after being out for so long. Some games this season it could work. They could go and win like a 4-2 or 1-0, 3-0, 4-0. But other games, if they're not tight at the back, they could get battered.
A better team would.
Other teams will batter them. So they have to get the right balance in, and take it from there, I would say.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what you do. Yes, it's a big season, and we know there's big expectations on your shoulders. We know there's a lot you got to have to do to keep it going. The next game we want to talk about is we're going to head over to Brighton. 2-1 win against Manchester United. I mean, I think Man United were a bit unlucky in that game.
Yeah.
At times. I guess for you, Matthew, when you look at the landscape of stuff, I know, Craig, we did say 10 games in for Ten Hag, it's going to be problematic for him if the results don't pick up. We've seen that in front of goal, Man United are struggling to make chances, get shots off. I think Rashford's only had one shot so far this season. One shot.
Dang.
But yeah, for you, Matthew, what do you think needs to happen now at Manchester United before we get into the result? Let's talk about that to kind of get things rolling for them positively.
They need to start scoring more goals. They've only scored what? Granted, all right, they scored 2, but they got that, was it? They 1-0 against Fulham.
Yeah.
And the 2-1 they obviously got that one against Brighton. They're not having that. They're not having that joy in front of goal that their players suggest that they should have. You know, Rasmus, you got Hodgland and Rashford, other players that can chip in. You know, Garnacho, Anthony.
In theory, Anthony should chip in.
In theory, yeah, the spinning Beyblade, but you know, he spends more time playing FIFA Street and doing showboat rather than being on the player. There's a reason why Jeremy Lynch isn't a player. There's a reason why. Too much showboat, whatever. But they're not having joy in front of goal, and they brought up a very good point about Marcus Rashford, the fact that like for years we've had him as this up and emerging talent, this new thing, this young boy who was destined for greatness. And that was okay 3 or 4 seasons ago. But he ain't no little boy anymore. And they're right, he's a man. He's 27 going on 30. As we said many times, he should be leading this Man United line to greater things, taking on that responsibility. A guy who's been in the academy and who knows what it is to be a Manchester United player. He can't keep on having that arm around effect all the time. He's experienced, he's seasoned. He needs to be having more for a guy we've compared to Kylian Mbappe at one point, I'm not saying he should be doing what Kylian Mbappe does exactly, but a comparison like that doesn't come lightly. He should be just having, he should be taking more of a responsibility. It's either you take more responsibility at this club or you go find it somewhere else where you can and lead on. He's a manager under pressure, Ten Hag. And I think his players have got to start showing that they care about what this guy is about. The League Cup and the FA Cup are, they're favours at best, but they've got to start stepping. They got to start stepping it up. Their old man Danny Welbeck, show him how it's done. Get a favour against his old team. I mean, next thing you know, it wouldn't surprise me if we're playing it. Be like, hey, Danny, maybe we teach you too harshly, you know what I mean? So
I was about to say that, because I think there was a stat they were saying that Danny Welbeck has scored the most goals against Man United of any of his other former clubs. So maybe deadline day might be. I mean, they're looking for a striker, right? Mm-hmm. They're short up there. Josh Zirkzee still finding his feet, so you got to give him that. Unfortunately, his knee was in the way at the weekend. Hodgland's come back from an injury. Rashford, jury's out as a striker. Why not give Welbeck a call? One more time, run it back.
Little one season wonder.
Give him a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
That's what he can do.
Get some goals.
He's got the Man United DNA. He knows the club well. He came through the system, so he knows how to win the trophies.
He won the Premier League. He won the Premier League.
So he knows how to win trophies. So yeah.
Well, let's speak about Brighton, because with Man United, we could talk about them all day for their good and the bad and the ugly. Although defensively, Man United, it has to be said, they still haven't quite figured it out. I think don't look right back there. It's like I mean, they had was it 9 players were back, and Brighton still got the winning goal. You know how embarrassing that is. You left the man free. How is everyone there but no one's marking? Shocking. But anyway, let's talk about Brighton because it's a remarkable how well as a club they're able to transition managers and yet maintain a very good style of play that's consistent with the different players. Obviously, each manager has their own little extra bit of flair and touch to it because I think Potter set a good blueprint, but De Zerbi's ball I remember it more because he took it up another notch. And then now with the new manager, they're just carrying on in that same vein. For you, Craig, how impressed are you with what Brighton are able to do and how well they played against a team that, for all intents and purposes, should be competing for the title? Irrespective of how crap they are on the pitch, Man United should be in title conversations, not in relegation conversations.
I think Brighton know how to get the best managers. I don't know how they do it. Their recruitment is very well. When it comes to buying and selling the players, they get the best players, the best good quality young players from everywhere around the world. I think they've got one of the best scouting systems in the league.
Oh yeah, this scouting system is amazing.
They got Caicedo for next to nothing, sold him for big money. They sold Ben White for big money. They sold Trossard for big money or for decent money. They sold their best players for good money. They sold McAllister for good money to Liverpool. So they know how to get these players from all over the world and sell them on for big money. So you have to give it to the owners and the club and the scouting system and how they do it. I thought Brighton, I know last season they struggled because they're playing in Europa League.
Yeah, the squad's so small.
And the squad was thin, had a lot of injuries. But I feel like this manager can get them into Europe again this season. I think they'll do well. I think Brighton's a great team to watch for this season. I think don't write them off because they'll give a couple of teams a good game this season. Even we got them this weekend. They're a good team. They're a very, very good team. So you just have to. They got good young attackers. They got Pedro, good player, scored top scorer for them last season. They got Danny Welbeck, a seasoned pro. Seems like he's getting better as he's
James
older.
Milner as well.
They got James Milner, evergreen James Milner. It's still going on.
Still got Matoma.
They got so many good players.
They've got young talent. And as a flip side, compared to Man United, I saw this thing online where it's in comparison to the ins and outs, so considering how much Man United spend on players to what they're letting go, I think there was this thing where it's 200 or 300 mil they spend on players, and they're losing money ham over fist. For example, Wan-Bissaka, who's bought from Palace, I can't remember how
50
much.
million.
Yeah, and he left on the whimper to West Ham. They got him for absolutely nothing. Flip side to someone like you said, like a Brighton, they're bringing all these players, and then last year they're selling Caicedo for 115 mil, and they'll use that to go around the club and turn them into a talent foundry, but still manages to produce good football, still manages to hold on to decent players, and even in some cases they take on players that maybe don't find it at their own clubs and build them up. So they got a nice little mix. Plus last year they got that loan from Barcelona for Fati as well. I mean that's a statement move. All right, it didn't exactly bring them up the table, but that's a statement of intent. For what their expectations are of the season. It's not going to be a case of, we're going to get with these players, but the players we have right here and right now, we're going to make them better. So even players like 2 ex-Chelsea pros in Lamptey and Billy Gilmore, they're going to start building their stock there and either going to be sold on for big money or stay on as Brighton legends.
That's it.
So on the flip side, their money making, their talent producing is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, they just have a way of just bringing players through, finding them, developing them, selling them for profit, rinse and repeat. It's just interesting. You feel like, they lose one key guy, another guy's right through the door. They just never seem to lack. I mean, even the fact that we don't talk about Evan Ferguson much anymore.
Yeah.
Because now they've got João Pedro up there, picked him up from Watford, and he looks quite a player. Obviously, they've got Adingra as well on the wing, who there's talks of him being potentially a player Arsenal might look at. I mean, João Pedro is one, I think. Let's see how he does this season. Next summer, if Jesus can't get his fitness up, this guy, they're very similar in how they play. I think João Pedro's a little bit faster, but I see a lot of similarities in them. So that could be one which has legs on it. But let's talk about him, João Pedro, Craig. How impressed are you with him as a striker?
I'm very impressed with him. Every time I watch him play, he seems to always score, get an assist, or he does something on the pitch. I know he was in the Champions. He came to the Premier League very young. He was at Watford for a little bit. When he was in the Premier League at Watford, it didn't look. It was a bit. I'm not sure. But then he went to the Championship, did well in the Championship for Watford. They didn't get promoted. Then they sold him to Brighton, and last season was his breakthrough season in the Premier League. Done very well in the Europa League. Scored an awful lot of goals in the cup competitions. And I think this season the man has seen something in him. He wasn't a regular starter last season for Brighton. I think he only played in most of his games came in Europe. But then this season he kicked on. That's what you need from a player. You need players that had a good season last season and they're done well. They come into the new season and they kick on from last season and then just get better and better and better. If Brighton was to sell him tomorrow, they can demand a big fee from him already. That's what Brighton do. Brighton seem to get players from next to nothing and can sell them on from big money.
Profit, man.
And you got to respect that because at the end of the day, football's about making money. It's about making profits.
That's it.
It's not about making losses, it's about making profits. At the end of the day, if you're sustaining yourself in the Premier League, this is needed for, if you look at other clubs in the Premier League, I like how Brighton do their business. They're one of the best. They know how to get big money for their players. Other clubs in the Premier League need to learn from Brighton model how to buy and sell.
But it's difficult because also, you're right. The buying parts, they've got down to an art form. But you're not always sure with certain players how they're going to develop. And I think the good thing that Brighton do is they utilise their players well, so they can get a good deal. And the ones that they don't fit what they want to do.
They sell them.
But then they give them enough minutes so that they get a good value. A lot of clubs, like Arsenal in particular, when the player's not suited anymore, we just sort of cast them aside. You don't see them play matches. How can you get a good fee?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't.
Yes.
If you don't play a player, you can't get a fee. I mean, look, Chelsea is smart because you could have argued from the outset, as great as Conor Gallagher was for you last season, you kind of knew when you bought Lavia on top of Caicedo and Enzo, the space for Gallagher was diminishing fast. So you kind of had a feeling that he ain't going to be here for long. But yet he was one of your key players last year. So you were able to get a good fee out of him. Although, that transfer is a bit interesting one because technically you kind of paid for João Felix through Gallagher.
Was that a swap deal?
It wasn't.
It wasn't and it wasn't. They basically bought João Felix so Atletico Madrid could pay for Gallagher.
So it's like a part exchange then. Technically like a part exchange because you buy they bought it for Gallagher, they bought Felix for 40 million.
And then that same money went back.
And that 10 million difference then. 10 million difference.
That's it.
10 million difference.
For swapping it.
Yeah. It's a swap deal with money exchange, One of those ones like 40 million plus the player.
It's a little backhand though, Take that.
No, legal transfer, but they know what they were doing with accounting wise. They know what they're doing. But yeah, I think definitely lessons to learn from Brighton. And one team that learnt lesson from last season going to the big match they had was, of course, our beloved Arsenal. Hard fought 2-0 win against Aston Villa. Before we talk about Arsenal's performance, I want to highlight one player, Morgan Rogers, was running midfield. He definitely had Partey and Rice on toast at times. There's even one run where he brushed off Martinelli on the wing, brushed past Partey, and then Rice had to foul him just to stop him running because it was just getting ridiculous. But I guess for you, Matthew, when you see a player put in a performance like that, and I think he is English as well, so do you think then, with Lee Carsley was there watching, do you think that now puts him right on the radar for the next England squad coming up in September?
Well, we've got games coming up. He's gonna be. I'd say so. It's not a bad thing to have a depth in a particular area in the midfield. In the past, we've had problems in the England squad. We can't fill certain positions, whereas now we're so blessed for every position we can have 2, 3, maybe even 4 man in that one spot. So having someone that can run and that show that energy, box to box, man, in the games coming up, with how many tournaments we've been so near and so far. Just that one player, that one mystery player that hasn't come up before, just might be the difference between victory and defeat, and still have that talent in the middle, the other talent that we've already had before. It's great, and with a new vision in the league, Carsley having that great tournament, not conceding a goal, not losing or anything like that. That's a great energy to be bringing into these players that he's already worked with before, and it can only go better from here. The one thing in getting to this level is that you don't want it to go down. You want it to stay. You want it to remain here or go up. So we're looking at the next tournament, which will be the World Cup in 2 years' time. You want to see us in the final. That's true. And it may be a case of was it Morgan Rogers? You said
Morgan Rogers. Yeah.
It might be a case of him if he stays fit and he has a good time at Aston Villa under a good manager. They're going into the Champions League. Granted, they lost, but it's not just about wins and losses. It can sometimes just be about the performance putting in the game. Plus, with the demand on Europe as well. So it's like a Newcastle round 2. You'll definitely be watching, as well as a few others that don't get on the England. Even some of the players that deserve to start getting in on that spotlight. How many people are calling for Cole Palmer to start? How many people are calling for Ollie Watkins to start? You know, not just going with a tried and tested formula every single time. Try something new. Look what happened. Go back to the Brighton Everton. Look what happened with Pickford. Shouldn't there be time for another England goalkeeper to come in? You know, this might be a case of seeing other players time to shine. So Morgan Rogers would be interesting to see if he's in the next round of international games.
Definitely going to be interesting to see if he makes it. And I guess, you know, with that game, obviously we saw Arsenal get the 2 goals, 2 hard-fought, well-made goals. Obviously a nice goal for Trossard doing what he does best. He looked suitably annoyed on the bench, but came off, got his goal, no celebration, till Saliba told him, do the goggles, bruv, do the goggles. And out they came. And then Thomas Partey, swing of a foot. Martinez just couldn't get down low enough, couldn't hold on to it, couldn't keep it out. But Craig, how do you feel about that result now in context of what happened last season, how the 2 games against them cost us everything, and just from like a performance perspective as well?
Last season we lost that game, and this season we could have lost that game again because Aston Villa had 2 chances. The Watkins header and the one where he missed the open goal.
Yeah.
If he had taken them 2 chances, we'd been 2-0 down. But one thing I like about Arsenal nowadays is that we're resilient. Since last season, defensively we're very resilient. Teams will try and score against us, and then we got the other end and scored 2 goals. Bang, bang, game over. And that's what you need. You need that sometimes. Sometimes you can be under the pressure. Sometimes you need to quiet down the noise and the noise of the fans. Aston Villa's like Anfield. At Villa Park, like the 12th man. Once we scored the first goal, the Aston Villa fans were quiet. Scored the second goal, they were quiet even more. So sometimes you go into games, especially away from home, where you know the atmosphere is going to be very difficult to play, very hostile atmosphere. Sometimes you have to go there and do what you got to roll off your sleeves. Tactics was what took off Martinelli. Trossard came, first touch goal. Saka played the ball across. Partey scores. Sometimes you need to win ugly, and I think that game on Saturday was a win ugly game. So that's if you want to win titles, sometimes you have to go to your big rivals, and Aston Villa is one of our big rivals now. You have to say they got top 4 last season. They're most likely going to be challenging for top 4 again this season again. So you have to, and against Unai Emery as well, our old manager. He has our number, but Saturday he didn't have our number on Saturday. But you know, it's a statement win. And we've got some big fixes coming up as well, so we have to keep on winning. Because Man City are not going to drop any points anytime soon, so we have to keep on winning until we play them, and then see what happens from there.
Yeah, we got to keep going, and I think things are shaping up nicely for us. There's news breaking that Nketiah might be on his way to Crystal Palace, so we'll see if that deal finally goes through. I wish him all the best. I think that is a good move for him. I think Palace is the right environment. You know, I think if Eze stays the window, I think them 2 together could really cook something quite nice this season. It's a shame that he missed out on playing with Elise, but you know, maybe Bayern might come knocking for Nketiah next season. Who knows? That being said, we will speak about Tottenham. Thrashed Everton 4-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Worrying for Everton, I have to admit. 2 games on the bounce, no results that they were looking for. Not what I expected. I thought they were going to be one of those contenders. They are rooted to the bottom of the table right now, minus 7 goal difference. 7 goals conceded in 2 matches. It is not a good start at all. Sean Dyche knows what he's doing, but it's concerning. For you, Matthew, again, there's still a few days left in the window. They could bring some players together. They've also had injuries as well, which has not helped. They're not playing their best team. But do you think their performances are a big cause for concern now for the fans?
2 games, like shipping goals like the way they have against 2 teams that are fighting on the right side of the table, there is definitely cause for concern. In particular, in the case of like where you got England's number 1 in there, and we all know the case of their 2 different Pickfords, Pickford for England and Pickford for Everton. This is a clear example of how that example is so damn true. And it's a shame because Dyche prides himself in that kind of football, that hard defence, hard to break down. But there's always that concern of if that plan fails, if your team finds a way to score past you, how are you going to get on the other side of the net? And let's say you're 2-3, you're 2 down, how are you going to recover and put some goals past? You know, Calvert-Lewin, good as he is, you know, he's injury prone, and if he's not getting the goals are few and far between in that team. And they're a decent team. They're a decent mid-table team, as we figured out last year when they get it right. Plus, with the pressure of a new stadium coming up next year, they're going to want to be bracing that being a Premier League team, because if they get relegated, a lot of that squad under pressure and some of them performing will be going. Calvert-Lewin will go. Pickford will go. If Decore is not scoring, Decore got half of their goals last year.
Yep.
He will. A player like him will do wonders in another team, not necessarily just in England. A proper box-to-box man who I think I can't remember where he came from before, but he was
at Watford.
Yeah, he was at Watford. You weren't getting goals like that for them, you know. But like you said, the window's still young. The window's still got a few legs in it. There's players that are going to want to play some football and, you know, potentially like move them on. But they're in the pickle. They're in it in the moment. They're in it, you know, and they don't want to spend another season skating over that relegation line so finely, because they rode. If it wasn't for those results, if they were allowed those points back, obviously they'll be a bit safer. But they can't be a team that's like flirting over that relegation the way they are. Like it's who I don't know who they're playing next. Who they're playing next?
The next fixture is against Bournemouth at home.
Bournemouth at home. So that's a team around the kind of like their midish, like the mid kind of a team that they can compete with. And, you know, but Bournemouth are still a half decent team. Granted, they've lost Solanke.
Yep.
But they're still a very kind of well-drilled team with a decent manager. So that's it. If there's a chance to get some points, it's there.
Yep, it's a big opportunity for them if they can pull it together, and they'll need to do something there. I mean, Bournemouth, their last game, they played against Newcastle and drew 1-1. So they'll be looking to kick on as well and get 3 points. So it's a lot for Everton. I think if they lost 3 on the bounce, I'm not saying it'll be over because it's way too early in the season to say, but I think that would be the point when they might need to start having some crisis talks with the squad and say, look, we need to get it. But it depends how they lose. If they lose narrow 2-1, then you can say, okay, you're putting a good batting performances, chances fall in a different way, might be okay. If Bournemouth beat them 4-0 at home, that would be very seismic for me.
That's shameful.
So it's all going to come down to how that match goes and can they kind of keep it together and keep things going well. But it's a lot to play for. I mean, for Tottenham, it's a great bounce back, great result. They must be very happy. They got the goals. Almost said I'm happy. I could care less. Yeah, Basuma, you know, got his goal. Andrew was quite funny. You said in the post match, you know, maybe we might ban him for next week's game and bring him back the game after if it means he scores another goal like that again. And obviously Van der Ven with an amazing assist for Son's second goal. It was a great run out of the back. I think with Tottenham, you just never know what you're going to get. I think it's a good win for them. They took advantage of a very poor Everton team. Pickford with some bad mistakes to give away one of the goals in particular.
Poor.
And you got to beat what's in front of you. So fair play to them. They got their 3 points and we'll see. But I don't think there's anything really to kind of take from it. I think Everton just haven't got enough at the moment. Hopefully they'll figure it out. And on that note, I think... I mean, there is obviously the Liverpool situation, and I think it's quite interesting how Arne Slot has come in early doors and is really making it clear who's the boss. He's shown it to Salah, shown it to Trent at this last game, and obviously the previous match when he took off the young centre-back, Quansah. He's shown everyone he means business. I think for you, Craig, do you think that's important that he is laying down the law early, especially coming from a team that have had a manager who's been a legendary manager, been there for so many years in Klopp? The players are so used to how things were, used to how he manages. Do you think now it's important that Arne Slot comes in and he's basically laying down the law early so no one can get any ideas of, in the old days of Klopp, like, he got dead that?
Like, it's got to stamp his authority so the players respect him and favour him, because if it doesn't, he will lose the dressing room very quickly. And when you lose the dressing room, it's very hard to get it back. You play football. If you lose the dressing room, players are not going to respect you. Players are going to want to undermine, agents will get involved. But the funny thing is, Trent out of contract end of the season, Van Dijk's out of contract end of the season, Salah's out of contract end of the season, and Liverpool are a club, they never let their players go ever go down to 1 year left on their contract. Normally, if they don't sign after 2 years left on their contract, they normally will sell them and bring somebody else in. So I'm very surprised that all three of them are out of contract in the season. It's not like it's on Liverpool like you think.
I agree. I think it is. It's worrying. Well, I mean, Matthew, how do you look at that and think? I mean, you guys don't have any issues with contract lengths with players, but when you look at what Liverpool are doing right now, this is the three of their key players who've been instrumental to their success. Do you think there should be concerns that they might lose one, if not all three?
I think it depends on who he wants to keep. More than likely, out of the three that are most likely to have their contract sorted the quickest, and the one that's going to be there the longest, is probably going to be Trent. He's the youngest. He's a homegrown talent. They're not going to want to see him. Granted, money-wise, they'll probably get the most for him anyway because of his age and what he's able to do. He can play in 2 different positions. His dead ball delivery is unreal. And like I said, he's the youngest, whereas the players like Van Dijk and Salah, good as they are and as effective as they are, they're going to be Premier League, Hall of Famers at one point. They're the wrong side of that age. They're the wrong side of 30. If they want to compete with the likes of Man City and Arsenal, changes have to be made. We've already said how Arne Slot is stamping on his authority and quick in his team, where it's going to be like, I'm not going to do what Klopp did. I'm going to do my own thing. And even Klopp backed him to do his own thing. He's got to make it his Liverpool. But you don't want to do it too hard that you become a tyrant, because they were used to do. He didn't do that. Klopp didn't do that. But he's going to want to do his own thing. I would not be surprised if Salah and Van Dijk would be on their way come the summer, because they've been there 8 years? 8 years. They've accumulated great success. They've been amazing servants to the club, but they're going to want to push on. A lesson Liverpool needed to learn 20 years ago from when Chelsea, Arsenal, Man U were going for the titles. They relied too much on their nostalgic players. They brought in players that, granted, shouldn't have been brought in anymore. Been there, done that sort of thing. They don't want to go through that cycle again. They waited 30 years for another Premier League title. They're not going to go ahead and do that again. I wouldn't be surprised. It'd be a shame to lose them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were moved on. Salah goes off to like Italy or America. Van Dijk goes off to another smaller Premier League club or somewhere else, because the change has to come at some point, and we've seen it slowly, one by one. Firmino, Wijnaldum, Henderson, Mane, a very big one. A lot of them were worried, but they still remain competitive even when he was gone. Little by little, they're gonna be little small changes around the club, and he's gonna stamp down what he wants. But I think this 1 year, this potential last year they're gonna have, we've already seen signs that they've rolled back the clock, especially Salah. Was it 2 goals, 2 games? Yeah. The guy's still got energy in the tank.
That's why I backed him to be top goal scorer. I can see it being the case. I think Luis Diaz getting off the mark was good as well. They'll need him. Jota with an assist. He'll get goals as the season goes on. So I think they got their pieces clicking at the right point in time, and I think it's important for them to keep it going. And we'll see how it all goes. Matt, what's your hot take for this week?
I mentioned last week one where I said there'll be no managerial casualties this year. I said that last week. Come back to me. I want a juicy one. I want to give you a good one.
I'll let you think about it. We might save it for another week if you're not sure for tonight. But one thing I do want us to talk about, because we were 2 games into the season. Obviously, it's way too early to make any predictions as to how things are going to go in terms of like teams, promotion, relegation. You can get an idea of trends, and obviously teams can kind of surprise you and change things. But of the newly promoted teams that are back up so far, which teams do you think are so far have shown that they're going to be best equipped to survive and stay up? I'll start with you, Craig. Of the 3, that's Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton. Which of those 3?
I think Leicester. They got a draw against Tottenham last week. Everyone thought Tottenham were going to batter them, and then they battered them. If they can keep Jamie Vardy, if Jamie Vardy can play at least 70 to 65 of their games this season, they have a good chance of staying up. Because Jamie Vardy is a goal scorer. The guy knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. What I do worry is that if he's out for a while, where the goal's going to come from. That's the only issue I'm worried about. I know they brought in Jordan Ayew now. They brought the Dockery guy from who was at Fulham last season.
Yeah, because Patson Daka has not really.
He hasn't done
It's
anything.
not done. It's very disappointing. I think when they scouted him, when they got him, he looked very sharp at Red Bull, and I'm just
Electric,
surprised
yeah.
he just hasn't really.
But that's like
done
Edson
much.
Edouard as well. Like he was a good signing from when they bought him because the hardest bought him, and he hasn't really shined in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Edouard is not going to be out the door now if when Nketiah is confirmed, if he won't be sold on elsewhere. I think Celtic are looking at him to bring him back, and I think that would be, if it does happen, that would be a good return. If not, then we'll see. Some reviews are saying yes, some people are saying it's not going to happen. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I just think
But I think Leicester. I feel like Leicester because Leicester like they've got a lot of proven Premier League players in their team, and they got their goalkeeper looks very good as well. He made some good saves last week. Watching the game,
Yeah.
analysing his game, it looks very solid. The back four, the Belgian defender looks not too bad. He scored a header on Saturday against Fulham. He doesn't look that bad. He looks decent. They got Harry Winks. They got Oliver Skip now.
Good coach as well, Steve Cooper.
Steve Cooper's a very good. He saved Forest from getting relegated. He got promotion from the Championship with Forest in the playoffs. So he's a good proven Premier League manager. I know he didn't work out from last season at Forest because whatever reasons, but I feel like if he can get them up, stay them up, keep them up this season, it'll be one of his greatest achievements as a manager. Even though he won the Euros with England or on the World Cup with England on the youth, that'll be one of his greatest achievements because like Leicester's how spent a lot of money. And it's hard to survive in the Premier League now. Every year it's getting difficult. It's getting difficult every season to survive in the
40
Premier League.
points ain't enough.
I know, it's difficult.
yeah, the bar keeps going up year on year, and you just have to be able to just make a difference. Matthew, which team are you looking at of those three?
I still think Ipswich have got something to show.
That opening goal was really well worked.
Really brilliantly well worked, and they're not going to be mugs. Obviously, look, you're going to the Champions where no one's going to expect a miracle, and I don't think they're expecting a miracle either. And they swiftly got turned right on its head. But to go goal up against the Champions the way they did, working a fantastic goal, that shows mettle, and that in their home games or other games where they fancy a go, it could be a case of like a Luton where they just don't lay down. Granted, the Luton's results didn't work out. They got some really poor results along the way. But especially against like the bigger teams, they really gave it a right good go. So your two opening games against the most recent Premier League winners and to come out with somewhat of a head held high, you've got to give it to them. I think it's unfair to call it now because they've played two teams like that. I think they've still got something to prove. But also with Leicester, same with like you said about Jamie Vardy, just the way that strikers are going on for longer and longer and longer into their, their twilight years in terms of football, and still having such a massive point to prove. He's got the potential of having a really big season. He really does. With someone like him who just loves that kind of camaraderie of the game, you don't really see players like that anymore who are so outspoken and maverick-like. If Leicester are going to do something, if they're going to be staying up, and fighting hard at the table, you're looking at somebody like him, a guy who's been around to be like long enough, former Premier League top scorer, former FA Cup Premier League winner. He is going to be vital to them this season. He's going to do something big. Leads into my hot take. He could get 15 goals.
Vardy.
He could get 15 goals.
I agree.
He's got the ability.
He's got the. I'm not saying he's taken the spotlight of the younger man, but he stayed at Leicester for just that reason, to become the man there, and he's like, he could be so crucial.
He might very well be. On to the fixtures coming up this weekend. So we start off at the Emirates. Arsenal against Brighton, 12:30 p.m. kickoff. Hopefully I'll be there, Arsenal. No pressure. I've asked twice now, 3 times now on my tickets. Anyway, Craig, what's your prediction?
2-0.
Arsenal.
2-1.
2-1 to Brighton. I see an Arsenal win as well. I think we just got to keep momentum going. I think Brighton will give us a game. Maybe Warwick might score. But I think Arsenal will win. Brentford against Southampton. Matthew, how do you see that one going?
Either Tony swirls around.
He won't be there.
He won't be there.
Or he won't play if he's still here.
they're struggling at the moment. I'm going to say Southampton. 1-0 Southampton.
Okay.
2-1 Brentford.
Yeah. I don't know with the Saints. I don't think they're not quite at the point where they can go marching in. They're struggling a lot. So if they can sort out the forward line, maybe they might have a chance. But I expect Brentford will carry on and beat them at home. Everton versus Bournemouth. Big one.
Massive.
Relegation 6 point already, I think, for Everton.
I've got not much hope. This could play out to be a 0-0. No score.
Correct?
1-1.
I'm giving Everton their first 3 points of the season. I think they'll do it. I think Calvert-Lewin will get a goal. Decore will swat one in from 35 yards out. And Tarkovsky will just drop one in the back post. And they'll be like, where's this come from? 3-0 win. That's it. Ipswich versus Fulham. Fulham, which had Emil Smith Rowe off the mark, first goal. Really good, well-taken goal. They looked sharp again. Craig?
3-1 Fulham.
This could be a fun game. I'm going for a 2-2.
I'm going for a score draw as well. I'll say 3-3. Peak Barclays.
This could be
machine for machine. I think Ipswich will score first. And then it'll be back and forth. Leicester, Aston Villa.
Aston Villa bounce back. I think 3-1 Aston Villa.
2-1 Villa, but Vardy scores.
Yeah, I think Villa will win as well. Forest versus Wolves.
Draw.
Derby game. Forest 2-0.
Didn't Wolves beat them last year? Was it one each?
Yeah.
Oh, Gibbs White will definitely score again. He loves this derby. I'm going to give it to Forest. I think they just had a bit more about them last match. I'll give it to Forest. West Ham, Man City. To wrap up Saturday.
What I'm hoping for, I want a 2-2 draw. What in reality is going to be a 3-1 Man City win, but I want a 2-2 draw.
West Ham have been a bit, they've been a bit up and down, but they've got a very interesting mix of players. Kilman looked very good last match. I think him and Mavropanos are starting to get that understanding going. Obviously, Bowen does what Bowen does best. It's just, I'm just not convinced through the middle. I think they need to, I think they've got to flip it now and make Fulcrook start over Antonio. It's just
Antonio's kind of it's going down, declining now, isn't he?
I wouldn't say it's declining. It's just that if he doesn't score,
Doesn't do anything.
and he's not a handful. And he's not really.
What's he doing in
what's
the game?
he doing there? Yeah. Matthew, what's your take?
Sorry, it's going to be I can see it be a 3-0 City. They just don't sign. There's no sign of them stopping.
Yeah, I think City will also do it. But hey, look, West Ham, if you can draw, please do it for my old manager. Shout out Blaine, do it for them. And on Sunday, Chelsea against Crystal Palace.
And we're going to go, I think we're going to march on from this. We're going to take a lot of positives from the last game. 3-0 Chelsea.
Craig, Chelsea, Palace.
3-1.
All right, Newcastle, Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. No, 2-1 Newcastle.
I'm going to want Spurs.
I
don't want to, but I think...
You know why I said Newcastle? Because Newcastle have got their number at St James's Park. They've gone there 2 seasons and got battered. Remember last season they got battered there? The season before they got battered there.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, so I feel Newcastle, if they can get it together, they could do another one. They could do another number on them.
Newcastle. Okay, lastly, Man United, Liverpool. Oh, it's this Sunday.
What?
Man United, I don't joke. September 1st, Man United, Liverpool. Last game to wrap up the weekend before the international break. Man United, Liverpool. Super Sunday. Ends with that.
The 2 Dutch managers, Arne Slot versus Ten Hag.
Ten Hag.
Ooh, that's going to be tasty.
Or you could call it the Egghead Derby.
You know what, yeah, I'll be honest with you, yeah. Is that Old Trafford?
Yeah.
Boy.
Last 2 games, Man United have had them.
That's true. Last season as well, wasn't it? It was 1-1 last season.
But that was last season, so you're holding Liverpool now.
You know what, yeah? I'm going for a Liverpool win. An edge Liverpool win. A 2-1 win. Man United will score, but Liverpool will score. 2.
This is where Man United are going to come clutch. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they'll come clutch.
They have to.
They'll come clutch because this is the game that defined it last year. But I think Liverpool, with the way they stamped down, he'll want to win this one big time. I'm going to say 2-2.
I'm going Liverpool win. I think Liverpool are going to slap them at home.
I think so too.
They're going to slap them at home.
That'd be so
They're
good.
going to slap them at home. Man United should, to be honest, they should put up a fight and, like you say, previous results should make a difference. I just don't see it. I think they're going to beat them, and it's going to be painful. And that will set in motion the countdown in Ten Hag's reign. I think this result, last one, you can argue the Brighton one because things could have gone either way. But this one, if you get slapped down at home against Liverpool, ooh. But on the flip side, if they beat Liverpool this early doors, you don't really want to drop points in the title race. That would put Man United right back in the conversation again because it'd be 3 games in, they would have won 2, lost 1.
Yeah.
Liverpool would have been the same, 1-2, lost 1. So that'll be good for Ten Hag. So I'm not saying it's make or break, but I think this is one of the most crucial games they've got this season.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But that is it from us in this episode of One Kick from Glory. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think about the predictions. Let us know what you think about players like Vardy. Do you think Rodgers will make the England squad coming up in September? What are your thoughts on Jackson at Chelsea? And last but not least, will Eric Ten Hag still be there come the end of the season? Will he even be there come November? Who knows? But we're going to find out together. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.